Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tenacious V's podcast. Each episode, I grab some drinks and some friends, and we discuss some incredible stories of heroines through the centuries. We talk about women from myth, history, and everywhere in between. We just want to know the true facts of their life and get their stories told because they're a lot less well known than you would think. This episode is all about Mary Eliza Mahoney, a famous nurse from the early 1900s. Just a really awesome woman. She helped further the nursing field by allowing it to be more accepting of people of color. She was a real inspiration for many. She was desired all up and down the East Coast and helped form nursing associations and awards to recognize nurses that helped people of color advance in their field. And she was a really wonderful woman who I hope you can be inspired by as well. So we would like to dedicate this week's episode to all of the nurses and doctors out there fighting for everyone's lives right now. We know it's a hard time, and we really appreciate all that you do for us and all that you give up for yourselves. So thank you so much, and you've been appreciated through all of time, and we continue to appreciate you. Enjoy the episode. Hey friends, and welcome back to a new episode of Tenacious V's podcast. Today we are going to be discussing Mary Eliza Mahoney. Has anyone ever heard of her?
I've not.
Not even a little bit.
She's a famous nurse.
Oh, okay.
Very cool. Good
Fitting.
timing.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So she was born around May 7th or April 16th, spotty records, 1845 in Dorchester, Massachusetts. And her parents were two freed slaves from North Carolina that had moved north in pursuit of a life with less racists.
Leaving Carolina is a good start.
Yeah. So their names were Mary Jane Stewart Mahoney and Charles Mahoney. So she was the oldest of two kids and sadly a third child that did not live past childhood. From childhood, Mary was a devout Baptist and regularly attended People's Baptist Church in Roxbury with her mom. She was like all about it. She was admitted into one of the first integrated schools in Boston at age 10, the Phillips School, and she went from first to fourth grade, like equivalent. This school was known for teaching morality and humanity, as well as the regular old school subjects like math and English. And it's said that this kind of sparked her interest in nursing, like from a really early age.
Nice. I can see the connection there.
Yeah.
With the focus on morals and things like that. Morals and ethics.
Well, humanity too. Like
Yeah,
that's
there
a
you
big.
go.
Yeah. So in her early 20s, it said that she was engaged to a doctor, but it didn't last very long, and they were both left kind of emotionally scarred from it, and she never ended up marrying or anything or having any more serious relationships after that. So she always knew that she wanted to be a nurse, like we said, due partly to the education at the Phillips School, and then also partly due to seeing all the good that the nurses were doing during the Civil War.
Oh,
Totally.
definitely,
That
yeah.
had a big influence on her.
That's pretty inspiring.
In 1878, when she was 33, she was accepted to a 16-month program at the New England Hospital for Women and Children with 41 other students. She was the only black woman.
Nice.
The only black one?
The only black
Okay.
woman. And so this was a hospital that was specifically for women and their children with all female physicians. So I thought that was kind of cool too.
That actually is pretty cool.
That definitely is.
Yeah. So this was the very first program, and it was like the kind of first of its kind where they were allowing like mixed races and things in So it was like a pretty big deal in general.
Just that she was able to attend it.
Yeah. And just like the program itself was a pretty big deal as well. It was like groundbreaking. The criteria to join it was stated that those chosen must be well and strong between the ages of 21 and 31 and have a good reputation as to character and disposition. So it's thought that she still got the spot even though she was 33 because when she was a teenager, she had worked at that hospital as a cook, maid, washwoman, and nurse's aide.
She was already in.
Yeah.
The staff knew them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
already
15
started
years.
on the menial work and shit, so.
And they already also, like, had an education that most black women at the time probably wouldn't have. And that probably also was impressive to the people that were there. And so that definitely, I'm sure, like, gave her a leg up. And same with, like, graduating out of a class of, like, 41. That's fucking impressive, too, just because it's like that's such a small, group of people to be selected from. 40, that ain't very much.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, so that's
So,
like
yeah.
a really good start. So she
Does
is.
show, like.
So with a start like that, like in that background, even though she like passed that age cutoff, it was probably a lot of these things, like you were saying, that gave her a leg up and kind of put her in there, which is tight.
Just enough like mitigating factors. So she had been doing that like lower work for 15 years, and she had worked 16 hours a day at the hospital, which I think shows pretty good character and disposition.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
We're seeing that a lot now, of course. So it shows real character and commitment.
Yeah, it seems almost like the amount of time nurses still.
Yeah.
It's the human
Well, that
spirit.
was before she was a nurse, as just like a cook and a washwoman and stuff. So her training after she completed the program was 1 year working as a nurse in each department so she could have a universal understanding of nursing.
That's really cool. So she's got a grasp of all different types of like surgeries, operations, and like illnesses, things like that.
Like big general medicine and everything.
Okay, just get like a very wide, scope of things. Like that's cool.
Yeah, very well rounded.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome.
Yeah. So then she'd work from 5:30 in the morning to 9:30 at night in the program, and she was attending lessons and lectures as well as those hours of work. And then she was also spending time outside of the programs with the doctors, trying to learn everything that she could from them on her own. And then she was also working as a private duty nurse for many months. So that would be home calls or like hospice care, like in-home hospice care, things like that.
I actually think that was a lot more common than having the doctor go and visit you. Yeah.
Well, it was kind of rare to have like an on-duty nurse though. Like that was still a little less common to just because she would just like work for a family. Like it was kind of like having a nanny but a nurse version.
I see.
Yeah. So the program was mostly caring for 6 patients at a time in either the surgical, maternity, or medical ward for 14 months. The last 2 months, the nurses were sent to unfamiliar environments like emergency rooms or private homes to test out their skills in like a real-world environment. So after a grueling 16 months, Mary became America's first black registered nurse. Of the 42 she started with, only 4 graduated the program.
Oh, shit. And then she was included.
She was one of 4, which is insane.
That's that same 40 that we mentioned that I was. Oh, well, shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really got whittled down.
Yeah, seriously.
So after their first 2 weeks working, the nurses could earn $1 to $4.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So many of the nurses were hurting for money at this point and found this pretty insignificant, and they ended up paying about a quarter of their earnings into financial assistance programs at the hospital anyway. So kind of just bullshit all around.
Stiffed them.
Yeah. Mary worked for years as a private care nurse, and she worked mainly for rich white families with newborns in Jersey. She did travel to other states as well due to a high demand for herself. Like, people were all about this nurse in particular. At this time, many African American home nurses, like, she's not the first black nurse, she's the first black registered nurse.
Okay.
There's a difference.
You want to define the difference?
Well, the difference is that she's registered. She went through school. she got a degree.
Not just doing it?
Yeah, she got a degree in it. She didn't just like learn it from doing it and having generations of knowledge passed down.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Used a lot less leeches.
Yeah.
A little bit less bloodletting.
Ooh, hell yeah, bloodletting.
Hell yeah, bloodletting. Shit works.
Yeah.
But so a lot of the other African American home nurses were treated like other home servants or maids, and she was very against this. And so the way she fought against it was with her intelligence and extreme professionalism.
Hell yeah. Respect my ass. I'm a fucking nurse.
Oh yeah.
That's exactly it.
Very much.
Saving your ass. Fucking.
Shut up and take it.
Yeah. There you go.
One of the big things that she would do was that she would only eat dinner alone in the kitchen because she wouldn't eat with the servants in their quarters, but she knew she wasn't going to eat with the family, so that was like a stipulation of hiring her, was that she would eat her dinners alone in the kitchen.
I could appreciate that.
Yeah, it was like a distancing act, which.
So did she end up poisoning people in these families?
Like, yeah, right. How twisted does it get?
Let's find out. No. No, so her attitude actually helped to raise the status and standard for all nurses, but especially for all minority nurses. She became very well known for her efficiency, skills, and foresight at like preparedness. She was the ultimate Boy Scout, always prepared for everything. So that became like one of her defining traits. Soon she was getting private nursing requests from all up and down the East Coast.
Damn.
Yeah. Which I don't know like how it worked back then, but that sounds like it has to be a really big deal.
It sounds like it is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Still would be now.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Okay.
I'd buy it.
Well, I mean, yeah, nowadays, but that's not a very common thing nowadays. You know what I mean? But back then it was pretty.
It would have been a bigger deal.
Yeah. Especially for like a black nurse who's the daughter of two freed slaves. Like, that's pretty insane.
Absolutely.
So, through her nursing efforts, she was able to afford an apartment by herself in Roxbury. And she enjoyed a quiet life of reading and attending church activities with her sister.
Oh, of course. She loved church. She was a devout Baptist.
Yeah, she
Alright,
loved church.
Should be there.
Yeah, she would be there for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes perfect
She'd
sense.
be pissed that Easter is canceled.
Would she really?
No.
She's a nurse.
I
She'd
think
probably be
she'd-
working.
She'd definitely be working. She would absolutely be like, cancel Easter, you bitches.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it right now. Do it for Mary Eliza.
Everybody needs to be eating their dinner alone like me.
Eating your dinner alone in the kitchen, you fuck.
Yeah, 6 feet away.
She's dead this year.
Fuck 6 feet. Get out of my room.
So, Mary's biggest mission in life was to abolish racism in the medical field. She herself often faced discrimination as an African American nurse, and it was especially hard for her to find work in her home state of Massachusetts. So, even though it was hard for her to find work in Massachusetts, she kept on going in all the surrounding states and up and down the coast, like we talked about. So, she said, fuck that, and kept going.
Oh, yeah.
She kept making a name for herself and fighting for her belief that everyone should have the opportunity to chase their dreams without racial discrimination. Still fighting for it, girl, but we got you. She had a distant relation to Frederick Douglass, who was a freed slave that became a prominent abolitionist.
He had an awesome head of hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you see him
yeah.
in his pictures,
Yeah, he does. He does. I saw a picture.
Okay, cool.
It's
yeah.
a good head of hair.
It is.
So he became a big influence on Mary's work against the repercussions of slavery and racial discrimination towards minorities in America. And she kind of like really went with that relation she had and was like drawn on his influences quite a bit. So from 1911 to 1912, Mary was the director of the Howard Colored Orphan Asylum in Kings Park, Long Island. And this asylum was a home to freed African American children and elderlies. And it was run entirely by African Americans. So this is where she finished out her long and intensive nursing career.
Did she get old there and become a patient there?
Come on.
No.
Be honest.
No, she did not.
Oh.
Did she get sick?
Not yet.
Ah!
So, in 1896, Mary became an original member of a mostly white association called the Nurses Association, or the Nurses Associated Alumni of the U.S. and Canada.
Okay.
Was it mostly white because she joined?
No.
Yeah, was it all white until she joined?
Probably.
Then it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was saying. I'm thinking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this later became the American Nurses Association. So later on, the NAAUSC stopped allowing African American members, like in the early 1900s. So Mary created her own, and she created a new and more accepting association with the help of many other nurses, namely Martha Minerva Franklin. So in 1908, she officially became the co-founder of the National Association of the Colored Graduate Nurses.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't discriminate against anyone and aimed to support and congratulate the accomplishments of outstanding nurses and break down racial prejudices in the nursing community.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pretty
Totally.
solid goal.
Yeah, it seems like that was something very important for her. I mean, I guess especially like aspiring to Frederick Douglass. That makes a lot of fucking sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was her main goal, was to break down the fucking racial inequality and
In the medical field specifically.
in the
Well,
medical
I think
field.
that specifically is really good because it was an area she knew. She was, familiar with the medical field. She just worked in the area that she wanted to see, like, the progression and, believed that other fields, I'm sure, would, like, have the same sort of progression as well, So that's really cool that she, took the helm for nurses.
Yeah.
Because there were other people in other fields that did the same.
Yeah.
So, good on her.
Well, and I feel like a lot of people, if they're like, oh, my nurse or my doctor was black, they can't be that bad. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of breaks down that stereotype, like, a lot faster. If someone of, like, importance to you is that different, like, alien thing. Whatever it may be.
Sure.
Like a race or a religion or a gender or whatever. Like, I think
Breaks
it
Any
kind
down
of...
kind of
those walls.
xenophobia.
Yeah.
And I think that it's especially a doctor, because that's not just someone that's like important to you. That's not just your mailman or your your whoever. It's someone that
Grocery
saves
store
your
clerk.
life. It's someone that saves your life. Usually,
Yeah.
especially this time you're seeing this. This is like someone that you respect that protects all life.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, all right. So regardless of like you could be a Klansman probably, and then you're still gonna get treated right by this
That's
person because it's
definitely happened.
their thing, and it's happened. We hear about it all the time. Like Nazis or
Actually, there's a pretty famous picture of a bunch of black nurses and doctors treating a stab or gunshot
Yeah.
wound in a fucking Nazi Klansman.
Yeah, he has, like,
Same
the
thing.
tattoos and everything.
Yeah, I think he's still wearing it.
he's still wearing the
arm.
the whole.
I've seen
whole
another,
cloak.
like, more
I think I know
modern
what you're talking
picture.
about.
I know the one you're talking about, too. But there's a more modern one, too, of, like, nurses and doctors that are, like, colored working on a man that has, like, swastika tattoos and
Yeah.
stuff all over him.
It's that
I mean, when you see
Hippocratic
that,
oath, I think.
it
Yeah.
is a Hippocratic.
But I don't think the nurses have to take it, right?
No, nurses too.
They
I
do,
believe
yes.
They do.
everyone that's
Okay.
involved in the medical field, because you're going to take personal information, so you have to take that
Okay.
as just basically your secrecy. But it's also just you chose this lifestyle. This is what you want to do, and you're going to treat anyone regardless, and you can't stop that. I mean,
No discrimination.
no discrimination.
So in 1909, they had their first annual NACGN convention where Mary gave a speech, and there was only 26 nurses in attendance, so they were like kind of struggling. But her speech recognized the inequalities in her own education, as well as the inequalities faced in modern education programs. The other NACGN members made Mary the chaplain and gave her a lifetime membership. And this organization later became part of the American Nurses Association.
Excellent. So they kind of, it ended up being integrated, like what she was fighting for.
Well, and it, like, I think it's important, too, to recognize that it stayed so relevant and important that it became part of this really big, important, modern, recognized association, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So, after her retirement in 1919, she was still a huge supporter of women's rights, and when women's rights to vote were achieved in 1920, and Mary was one of the first women in Boston to register to vote.
I was going to say cast, but register, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because 1920, that's right, suffrage.
Suffrage movement.
Yeah.
She was one of the first in Boston to be able to vote.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah, man. She's just making moves all over the place for the marginalized folk of the time.
Hell yeah. Alright, so here's the part you guys don't like.
Well, where she gets sick and dies?
Yeah. She was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1923 and battled for 3 years. She died on January 4th, 1926 at the age of 80.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
She lived a good long
That's a
life.
good
yeah.
Very
life.
solid,
Yeah,
actually.
she did a lot.
She treated herself when she got sick?
Probably.
She still eating dinners alone in the kitchen?
What year did you say that was?
1926.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
In the peak of some other movements, fuck yeah.
She's buried in the Woodlawn Cemetery in Everett, Massachusetts. And to honor and recognize the outstanding work of nurses of all colors, the NACGN created the Mary Mahoney Award in 1936. And then when they joined the ANA in 1951, that award continued and is still given out biannually.
That's fucking awesome. Biannually, as in every other?
Biannually.
Yeah.
Every 2 years.
Yeah,
So every other year.
buddy.
What would you call it if it was?
Biannually is twice a year. Biennially is every 2 years. And so this one's biannually.
Haha. That's what I was going off.
It's pronounced
But I didn't know either. I thought it was the same word and it could just mean two things. So
Well, that's why I looked it up.
get learned.
I did just now.
Me too.
So, it is given out biennially in recognition of significant contributions in advancing equal opportunities in nursing for members of minority groups.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually cool that her legacy lived on that way into like what she fucking really wanted to like make happen
Yeah.
too. So like she is remembered like
She's remembered in the perfect way.
I was just saying she was successful.
succeeded in her mission.
Totally.
I like that.
The whole integration.
Yeah,
That's what she
this one had a happy ending.
The whole time. Yeah.
She succeeded like in life and then even like post mortem. Like
Exactly.
has continued to be a beacon of it, and that's truly inspiring. Because I mean, isn't that what we all want? To leave a legacy, leave your mark. Let y'all think about that, but
In the end, yes, I think you're right, man.
Yeah.
I think everybody does, in some way.
in some way or another,
Definitely.
yeah, for your like your main life's mission to fucking actually be remembered through time like that is, I don't know. To me, I count that as a big W. So, that's super cool.
So she also left her mark in 1976 when she was inducted into the American Nurses Association Hall of Fame, and then again in 1993 when she was inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame. There's also a Mary Mahoney Memorial Health Center in Oklahoma City, and the Mary Mahoney Lecture Series at Indiana University Northwest.
So a shit ton of accolades.
Yeah. The Mary Eliza Mahoney Dialysis Center is a stop on the Boston Women's Heritage Trail, which is something you really need to check out if you're a fan of this show, once we can go outside again.
For now, we'll have to deal with Googling pictures.
Google
Google satellite image.
Oh.
So there's also a book you can check out if you'd like to hear more about our disease-fighting heroine, called Mary Eliza Mahoney and the Legacy of African American Nurses by Dr. Susan Muadi Daraj. And that's all I got.
And I'm Will.
Cheers to Mary. And I'm Will.
Cheers to Mary. Stay inside for her.
Stay away from each other for her.
Yeah.
Quarantine.
Stay in the kitchen.
Stay in the kitchen and eat by yourself.
Thanks for listening. If you liked that, check us out on social media. You can find us at Tenacious V's Podcast. Or better yet, just go tell a friend. Nothing can happen without friends. You can listen to us on pretty much any hosting site except for iTunes. We're working on it. And each episode is written and produced by Nona, with music by Leche. Will, Johnny, and other friends join in all the discussions. Thank you so much, and we hope to hear back from you soon.